It sounding good now? Okay, fantastic. Jesus Christ. This is the problem with my new audio panel is it's like an 8-channel like band one, so it's meant to like be able to apply effects to instruments and stuff. And that has meant that occasionally there are like if I put a mic into a new channel, I don't check the effects on that channel, and then all of a sudden it's like we're super reverbing for some stupid reason. So there should be no audio effects. You should all be able to hear me. Did it! But it wouldn't be a GMG live stream if something wasn't completely. If I went into any of these ever with complete confidence that it was going to work, I'd be more worried. I'm more of a measure thrice, cut once kind of guy. Whenever we go live, I'm just like fully not sure if it's going to work or not whenever it happens. So hey everybody, well, happy Monday. I hope everything's going great. I hope you guys are having a good one. And when everything just works on these streams, as Torben just said, if everything does work, then things will have gone horribly wrong, probably. So yeah, hi, hello, lovely patrons. Hello, all of you awesome people who come and hang out with me on Monday. I had the brainwave this week of, oh my God, there's so much light coming in. Hang on, I should pull the line. Let's do it like this. Like this. Is that better? This feels like it's going to be way better. It's been like a miserable gray November for a solid week, and the sun literally just came out as I hit to go live, and all of a sudden this room was just completely flooded with light. And I went, I couldn't stand it. So yeah, there we're going much significantly better now. So I had the good idea this time around of putting up a Google link as well with like everything that's going on, so that we could do like questions basically from the folks who can't make it, because obviously you guys are all over the world, and I want to be able to chat with as many as possible and answer your questions and make myself available, right? That's the whole point of this weekly show. And so doing that would mean that once, as people like filter in, because obviously people aren't going to be here right when I go live, they all know there's a 5-minute screen happening that has to happen. Then I've got some questions I can take from other folks too, and I'll just keep that thing up forever. As I answer questions, I'll like delete them, and we can just keep it full all the time. And then even if you're a patron, you watch this like halfway through, if you want your question in the mailbag, I'll just keep cycling through them forever. It just makes the time zone issues not as relevant, and people can hear the answers to their questions eventually as we just go through and answer them all. So I'm going to say hi to people in the chat, see who's here. We got Torben, we got Nick Butler, we got Riot54, we got Seth, we got Dario, we got Torben, we got Paul from Paul's Paint Shed, we got Ralph, we got Scott Radom, we got Gizmo Math Boy, and we got Mike Grimshaw. All of them so far were just commenting about the fact that I sound like I'm in space, which is great. We got Ewan's here. We got Rob Mooney. We got Matt Tarpley. We got I'm repeating myself because they're all just blowing up in the chat and talking to each other. And Mike Forsted. Fantastic. We got 20 people today. That's great. That makes me much happier that we have so many people now. Oh my God, now the sun's gone away and it's friggin' dark in here. This is I cannot win today. Everything is just terrible. It's fine. I'm going to live with this. We're not going to mess with anything else right now, and this will be yet again on my journey of things being messed up. And Jerry's here from Norway. Fantastic. So hopefully this time works better for everybody. Obviously, I just want to be able to hang out with people for an hour, either on their lunch break, if they're up in North America in the Eastern time zone, after work, if you're in the UK/EU time zone, and probably, I guess, as you're getting to work, if you're in Pacific time, will be roughly when you're arriving at 9 a.m. So you can slack off for an hour and get a coffee and hang out and chat with us while we get started. This seems to work the best, I think, of all of the possible options that I had. The sun is just trolling me now. I've been inside all weekend. So we'll kick it off. I'm gonna try and get like an actual plan for doing these. So I'm gonna go week that was, questions for the mailbag, and then I'll go look through the chat and as I go, obviously I'll talk to you guys, but we'll take questions at the end. So think of your questions. You can buy yourself some time, or if something comes to mind while I'm going through and talking. So I spent this past week catching up on painting projects for the first half of the week, and then on the weekend, the kids with their mom. So I was able to completely dive into starting work on the back soundstage, and I'm probably gonna get it done tonight or tomorrow, which I think is going to feel amazing. I've changed my plans like 3 or 4 times on how to do it. And what I've kind of landed on so far is a lot of what I wanted to build was for me to then not have to be good at editing and managing and shooting audio. So like I kind of backpedal a little bit on like doing a drop ceiling covered in audio panels. I still want to do audio panels for the ceiling, but I felt like that would just make me settle for slightly more mediocre audio as opposed to like continuing to force myself to like try new things and learn. So instead, what I've got a lighting rig I've built above the soundstage. I built big like arms basically for it to sit on, and there's gonna be some audio paneling in there too. I've got big softbox lights now back there. I put the gaming table on casters. Rob was here on Saturday and he helped me actually flip over the gaming table that was in this room for 8 years. And we put it on casters, like locking casters, and they worked fantastic. So that sucker's going to get just like zhuzhed up a little bit. I can't believe that thing's almost 10 years old. It's going to be 9 years old in February or March, which is crazy. And I'm going to, or actually in June or July of next year, it's going to be 10 years old or 9 years old. But it's going to get repainted and just like made clean. And then under the table now, because all the scenery and stuff is stored on the warehouse racking. I'll keep like audio and video stuff. So all the extra camera stuff and cabling and XLR cables and lights and stuff will sit under there. I'm going to make some bins, I think, to organize all that stuff. So it'll double sort of duty as like the camera gear hideaway, and then roll around and roll in and out of the way when I need it. So that felt really good. Being able to have like top down proper camera mounts, and then getting everything organized and out of there is going to feel fantastic too. I threw out a whole bunch more stuff and generally just like got organized. So I am shattered because I was here until like almost midnight last night. Because once I start working on stuff, and to baffle the walls, I'm doing huge like acoustic drapes instead. So it's going to be more of a blank slate. I kind of envisioned, like I used to look at other people's YouTube channels and be like, should I have all kinds of like miniature stuff out there? Like, do I want to do that? And then I eventually settled on, well, no, this room's kind of like that, I guess, like this room's kind of like the more, the relics and stuff are on the walls and stuff I like is on the walls. And this is more like that kind of space. The soundstage should be a blank canvas because I can shoot anything in there and it's not like kind of stuck being this like wargaming space. It can be used for whatever I want it to be. It can be actual soundstage. So I went with acoustic drapes instead. And I need to get those, but I have to build the stuff that attaches to the concrete cinder block walls at the same time. So they're all going to go up when that's finished. And that's basically the rest of today after I run some errands in the afternoon. After this is over, I got a lot on the go, but I was here until like midnight trying to get everything done. So I have done a bunch of work, and just like carpentry and getting things mounted and, anchoring stuff to cinder block. So it was nice to get up today and be like, I'm not going to do a lot today. I'm going to hang out with the patrons. That's questions. So let's dive in and take some questions from you guys and see what the beat from the street is. All right, first question, and he's in the chat right now, I'm pretty sure, is Nick Butler. What skill or lesson did you develop during the pandemic of 2022, 20 or 22 you're still using today in tabletop gaming? Weirdly enough, solo gaming. How to record solo content. I had to. Like, we were in lockdown. It was just me in here by myself. That was the beginning of that. I mean, from 2015 until 2020, I always had someone else in here with me. And we didn't record. I mean, I may have done like 1 or 2 episodes, something that was solo content, but I really had to like pivot hard into that. And I've kept making it since the pandemic ended because a lot of it's really fun. And there's a huge appetite for it out there that I think was totally untapped. But I was doing 7 days a week basically of solo content for those 2 years. And let me tell you, in the beginning, it's really hard to do what I'm actually doing right now. I'm not good at it. It's why I didn't like doing live streams before. I think I got better at doing stuff like this through the pandemic, because not having anyone to like emote off of and like talk to, that parasocial experience of like just talking to a camera, it feels so weird the first time you do it, especially if you're used to actively listening and asking questions and responding. And that's like a thing that you need to feel like you're having a conversation to like get engaged with it. I had to get over that real fast. And I spent probably like 6 months trying to do that. And I think I did okay. In those first 6 months, I had to like that stuff that you guys really like, where I kind of respond in real time to the events the dice rolls are generating. And I'm kind of like extroverting like my headcanon of what's happening. I'm really good at doing that with another player. Like I'm really good at doing that when someone else is around, if that makes sense. Like with not an audience, but like when people are participating in it with you, it's kind of easy to both get like swept up in the narrative and have that like, oh, and now he's doing this, or now this is happening, kind of like a moment. I wasn't good at doing it by myself, like and having to like express it. Like what was going on in my head, I wouldn't normally, if there's no one there to laugh, you don't normally make the stupid joke. I had to learn to make the stupid joke no matter what. Like if something crazy happened, I had to pretend there was someone there with me in my head to kind of like make it come out. And I think that a lot of my best series you guys really enjoyed, especially you patrons, things like 5 Leagues from the Borderlands, the Forbidden Psalm stuff, the Last War stuff, which I played. So, and there's some follow-up questions actually about that in particular. I think Paul asked some questions regarding that, that are directly related to like my ability to do that. I think I grew as I don't want to use the word performer, but as a person making like a specific type of content. I developed that skill of being able to communicate and like extrovert what was happening and like almost like facilitate it for the audience through the pandemic, because I just had to. Like it would have just been like me silently rolling dice. Could you imagine if it's just solo content? It's just me saying they're rolling dice and then not saying anything. Like that like descriptive video thing that I kind of do. I think came out of that like need to do that. And I like can't not do it now, even if I don't have an audience. Like it's just ingrained in me to like I'm sure it'd be super annoying to be around. I'm sure it's unbearable. I'm sure it's not fun to be around. But I had to learn how to do that. And it definitely was one of those things that I think is a skill I'm having. And I learned lots of other things during the pandemic too, but that one in particular, I think is particularly important. All right, so let's go to Kurt from Chicago. He asks, say you are hyped about an indie game, but you play a session or two and the system just doesn't work as expected. Do you house rule it, contact the writer and ask for feedback, or bail on the project? So I think you saw that happen when Jay and I played cooperative 5 Leagues in the first couple games. We were like, this is very difficult to manage when you're trying to manage two people's expectations of what's going to happen and you're not just kind of working in concert against the bad guy and both of you have your own agendas. It really is a solo game. I think it works best as like a journaling solo game where the combat system is like an emergent narrative and you're operating a crew of people where you don't have to try and like, you don't feel as bad, I think, when somebody dies if you're operating it solo, if that makes sense. I'm not really sure why. And your whole stable is just your stable. Yeah, but there's been games that have been like that. There's been a couple games where I've played like 1 or 2 games and it just hasn't been for me because it's too fiddly or the experience doesn't sit right. And typically what will happen is I will change the direction I'm moving in with it. So I'll let the people who are also excited about it kind of drive how much I play it instead. So like if I have friends who really like a certain game system and I know they want to play it with me, I'll paint an army for it. And every time they're like, hey, do you want to play this game? I'll be like, sure, man, let's play that game. And I'll unpack that stuff and I'll play it. But I won't usually keep chasing it on my own. I'll keep it around as a way of like responding to those people. I don't tend to abandon projects, as you may have seen, because I have shed loads of things I should probably have gotten rid of. But I do think that there is some value in managing your expectations of stuff instead of just like instantly abandoning it, because there is an instinct to just like throw up your hands when it doesn't do what you want it to do. And instead I try and like pick apart, what did I want out of this? What did I think it was going to be? And then what did it provide? And what, if there's parts of that I really like, then chase those parts instead. So like with 5 leagues, it was just turned into a solo game. Turned into a game that was just going to be me and Jay playing it. And we kept playing it, or I kept playing it, and Jay moved on to something that was more for him. And we still play different games together. I think that's fine. I think it's having a middle, beginning, and an end. And then the other half of that is, if it's inescapable, I just kind of shelve it. Like, I have a really hard time when games require tons of like accessories. Like, you'll see me burn out on games really fast when there's just a ton of shit on the table. I think Star Wars Legion was an example of that, where I was like, oh, there's just so much stuff here. Like, you put tokens down all the time, and it's just it's weird because I like Infinity, but you don't need that many tokens in Infinity, like with the dashboard systems and stuff like that. And I guess maybe something like that could exist for Legion, but for whatever reason, it didn't. It just seemed like it was very stuff intensive. I think the cards, actually, there's a saturation point where stuff stops being a cool, handy reference that makes that facilitates you focusing on the gameplay experience, because you can quickly access information, to now there's just too much of it. It's all spread out, right? If Legion had a great app the way Infinity has a great app, and I know there's a bunch of third-party ones that are kept relatively updated and stuff, but like Infinity's play app is like, it takes so much stuff off the table and lets you like concentrate on what's happening on the board for the most part. But I think that's one of my like pet peeves, is when there's just when the spectacle of the miniatures and the terrain starts getting distracted by the amount of stuff around on the table. I start to get like taken out of it, and it frustrates me. And if that's like baked into the experience, if I can't remove that somehow, then I tend to move away from the game, or just not be as excited about it. But that can change like edition to edition too, right? So you never know where it's going to go to. So let's have a look at the chat, and then I'll go back to some more questions, and we'll see what's up. Miles Turner says, perfect quitting time from the resin factory. Yay! It's perfect that this is the 5 p.m. time for some people. Lorca Nickel says, I have a pile of 21 Battletech minis staring at me right now. Gotta get them painted for the worldwide event. That's cool that you get to do the worldwide event. You got like the demo team coming to play with you. That's awesome. And Torben asks, hey Ash, have you planned a for me project for this year yet? More Old Hammer or something completely out of left field? Probably going to start off with Old Hammer, because January of last year I did the Road Trader 2nd edition thing. I think I'm going to do the 3rd edition one finally in January, in the new year. I'm going to get to do it, because once this soundstage is done, and there's a question in the inbox kind of that's about something similar to this, but I did so much work over the last 3 months getting this place to the place it's at. And I really, in the last like 3 weeks, slowed down on purpose, like mindfully a little bit, and was like, no, you need to use this front office space that you finished now. You need to see what you can do with it and decide what it's fit for purpose for, so that when you go to design the back, it's doing the things you can't do. And that's where I came to that, like, oh, I really don't want to fill the back with a ton of stuff. I want it to be this spacious blank space, because these 2 rooms are relatively small and there's things I can and can't do in here. So like the Infinity Escalation League that I'm doing with Jordan is perfect for this space. The RPG stuff is perfect for this space. The sit and chat shows with Jay and Grimdark Media is going to be perfect for this space. And sort of like exploring not just like what is my goal for those spaces, but like what are they really good for, I think, as far as like making content. And then what do I need and what do I want for the rest of the big, huge space? I like had to like pump my brakes for a second and stop like rushing to the finish line. Cause if I get an idea in my head, I will absolutely like run it to death. And so that for me stuff, I've started doing that. Like doing that fighting fantasy thing with Jay was like a for me thing. The Grimdark Media thing is 100% a for me thing. And when that we're good, we've scripted, or I've not scripted. We've picked the first 3 pieces of media we're gonna do over the rest of this month. You'll see the first one on Saturday. So we've picked the film, the piece of literature, and the game that we want to cover. And I'm really excited about those 3 episodes because I think they're fun to research. They're fun to talk about. But that's going to be like one of those things that can be a for me thing all the time. Like I literally, it's great. If you guys want to be able to catch up on some of the stuff I'm going to break down, Tubi is your friend. Surprisingly, a lot of what I want to go and watch is living on Tubi, living its best life on Tubi. That's the great thing about older and B movies. Everybody's going to be able to watch them for free. You're not going to need a specific streaming service to like catch up and do these things. But I think if for an old Hammer project, like for me, like miniature wargaming project, will probably be the 3rd edition box set and breaking that down and talking about it because I'm excited about doing that, I think. Let's go back to this part. All right, so we just did Kurt. I'm going to answer Gizmo, a math boy who is in the chat's question. Are you still figuring out camera angles for gameplay? What I missed the most from the current gameplay videos is the old camera angle. The old angle just looked like we were standing over your shoulder and could see the board and the dice tray. So yes, I haven't figured it out. I think a good example of where it's moving to is like a hybrid. If you look at last Friday's Infinity videos and the one that comes out this Friday, that's me playing with a whole bunch of things. The soundstage is going to allow for me to capture things differently. The one thing that I will say is doing a more complex, higher quality bunch of shots and shot blending requires a lot more editing. My old way of doing things is very quick and dirty, and you never get a high quality shot of anything. You get lots of moving shots of stuff. And while I do like that, I think that doing the models justice sometimes wasn't best achieved by what I was doing. Also, I can't do the handheld camera on these tables because the thing you guys probably don't know about the gaming table from the old studio, or the one's in the back now, the one's on casters, it is 4.5 feet tall. It comes up to like my mid chest. And that was super important for capturing gameplay videos back then because it meant that my shot is almost on level with the miniatures. All of the tables in here are like just they're actual tables. Like they're not fit for purpose gaming tables. And so they're very low. And if I do handheld cameras standing up with these, you're not going to like the shot's going to be 2 feet removed basically from where it used to be. Like these are 30-inch tables. The one that I'm playing on is almost 4 feet tall. So it's more than 4 feet tall. So there's an extra 1.5 feet basically of elevation between the camera and the miniatures when I do them on these tables. And that hybridization of those 2 things, I think, is something that I'm going to look into. How do I keep pushing that? I'm really happy with like the moving camera shots from the last couple Infinity videos. And again, this is me like throwing out the way I used to do things and trying to figure out new and different ways of doing them that I'm happy with, but that still allow me to make a decent number of videos per week because the editing time is exponentially bigger on the videos that I do now. There's just more footage. When you're trying to blend 3-4 cameras together, you have to go manually do that. You can't in-camera edit the way I was by just starting and stopping the camera in the old battle reports. And those are, you just throw introductions on those and you sit and chat for a minute and then transitions and you're done. Like I could edit one of my old videos in about 15 minutes. It takes 4 to 5 hours to edit the ones that I have now. So keeping up with that, like every week I'm like, oh shit, I have to edit. I have all this footage I have to edit basically for that week. And that means that like you need to like you need to, if you want to make something higher quality, then there's a commensurate amount of work that goes into that stuff. But I do understand that there is a feeling that comes from that over the shoulder camera that I want to get back to, whether it's in a different fixed format. And capturing the dice rolls, I think, is really important to you guys too. So I've made sure the last few videos are doing that. And that means different cameras, different angles, and a different amount of work. So having like a dice camera or a 4K camera where you can punch in really, like you can punch in anywhere basically in the shot almost and not ever lose resolution. Because a 4K camera is just soaking up information. You can crop down and you're going to just be as sort of like good as if you're anywhere else. it's stuff like that. I just need to keep learning and keep doing. That's going to make it, I think. It's going to end up being something that's a blend of what I'm doing now, what I did before, that I hope people like, I guess is the short to long answer to that. Okay, let's listen to some chat. Nick says, thanks for answering, because I think, yes, it's been a skill and bonus watching your content, which lent into solo side as well. So yes, hard agree. Thank you. I'm glad you liked it. It does seem to be something that people respond to, like, and I don't know where it comes from either, but the letting it out was the skill. Kudos Budo says, could very avant-garde video if it was silent film and just black and white. I could do that. Chase says that I will reinforce that you are fun to be around. Thanks, Chase. I appreciate you're fun to be around too. Everyone says fun. Thank you for being so nice to me. Dario says, ended up putting on Mad God last night after watching Grimdark Media. Thanks for the nightmare fuel, and I look forward to seeing more. I really enjoyed it. Also getting started with Soma this weekend. Soma is a treasure. I'm trying to find a way to get Jay. Like, all of those pieces of media, the 6 pieces that we broke down in that first video, I want to circle back to at some point and give their own treatments, but like, they're a highlight reel of great conversations. I think they all deserve to be like fully broken down though. But yeah, Mad God and Soma are absolute treats. Just spoilers, the thing I was watching on Tubi was From Beyond, HP Lovecraft's From Beyond, which is a freaking treasure, even though it was made on a $4.5 million budget and only ever brought in a box office of 1.2 million. It is a tragic failure in terms of box office success. All right, Paul says, co-op gaming is my sweet spot for the riffing, goofing, and narrating part of the hobby. It's the most important part of actually gaming for me. It's why solo gaming hasn't clicked for me, I think. And it's funny because I'll take your question next, Paul, because your question is next in the mailbag, actually. I honestly think it's so funny how with my close gaming friends, it's the thing that we go back and forth between. Like, we go back between like co-op and like head-to-head gaming. And our head-to-head gaming almost sometimes turns into co-op gaming where the narrative becomes too important for us and we can't like let go of like what's happening over like what we think should happen. You know what I mean? Like Jay jumping his Gorka Morka truck. There was no way that wasn't happening, even though it wasn't a fantastic idea. There was no way it wasn't happening. And your question was, do you think you're ever going to tackle the rest of the Footsteps of the Mad Wizard campaign? We kind of abandoned when the leader of the Lost fell through a magic door and never came back. And what about PvP Forbidden Psalm? I don't think that you have tried that on camera. The comedy verse elements of that game would lend itself to some goofing around, I think. Yes. So my plan for Forbidden Psalm is I'm going to finish Last War because I'm really enjoying that. I'm going to probably wait until Kev delivers the Ultimate Edition he's doing right now. And then I'm going to start a PvP one with Jay or with someone else that wants to do that kind of level of stuff. My problem with indie games that I want to play is I get too many pans in the fire and then I can't actually like finish them all. Like, and we get busy too. Like Chase hasn't been back for us to do Doomed yet. But he's like built and painted and converted a whole bunch of stuff. So we need to like actually get together and do that. And when Chase comes back, we'll start. Sorry, Chase 2, not Chase. Wait, Chase 1, Chase 2, Chase Patterson, not Chase Strollenberg. I have so many Chases and Jays and Chris's and Daves. It's bizarre. But yes, we like that's the thing is I also want to time these things when I make them to be the most useful I can be. So like when Exalted Funeral has those for sale on the website, and it'll help Kev out, that's when I want to like come back and circle back to that stuff usually, which buys me a little bit of time as well, which is great. So I want to do like one of his things at a time just so I can really focus on it and make it good. I think the last episode of Last War that I have filmed is gone out, and my plan is the next one I'll be able to use the soundstage to record. So I'm trying to like, it's been a balancing act of like, what can I make in the current studio state and what do I want to make? And so going back and forth between those two things has been kind of a balancing act. It's funny because I did play, when we put the cast on the table, Rob and I played a game. We didn't record it, but we played a game in the back. And it felt so good to have that much room to move around on. It was crazy. Like just having a big table and having it be like raised up. I forgot it had been disassembled for like 3.5 months. I forgot how much I missed that thing. I'm so happy with all of the space that I have now, but like, I was like, oh yes. And that's what lit the fire in me for the weekend, basically to spend the rest of that time trying to get the thing finished so that I can record some more. What else we got? Oh yeah. Atragon X says, Oh yeah, Wasteland Warfare is my peak of shit on the table for me. As what Torben said. I mean, that's very true. It had a lot of tokens. It was kind of the tokeny game. It had pretty much the most like, and they were really tiny. I think that is a very under considered user experience part of gaming. When you make accessories for your game, consider how much they're going to be interacted with by the players and consider how often that's going to interact or interfere with their experience playing. Like, if you require me to put tokens in a bag and shake them up and take them out again, think about what they're made of. Think about how durable they are. Think about how they're going to feel when they get pulled out, or if they get damaged, they'll be identifiable. Think about like if they need to be flipped, right? Like if you need to put them down one side and flip them over, like how easy are they actually flip over? Like there was a luck token in Fallout Wasteland Warfare. It is like the size of the head of a nail, and you need to flip it like a coin. And me trying to do that was with my friggin' giant thumbs was the most frustrating thing I think I've ever had to do during a miniature game. It was very, very, very frustrating. So it's funny because so many other things get tangled and involved in accessories for miniature war games and for tabletop games in general, even for like RPGs, like the way that a Dungeon Master screen's laid out. You need to touch test them, and you need to have people spend some time with them, and you have to balance that with what they cost and how many you're making and how many you need to make, and are you going to fit them all on a, like, those Wasteland Warfare tokens are small because they need to fit 1 million of them on a single punch sheet of 8.5 by 11 cardboard. They're also fairly thick, which is a good thing because they're fairly durable, but they're so tiny that like sorting them and organizing them becomes miserable. And it's like, maybe we didn't need all of these. Maybe we could have just had some of this be things you wrote down, like, or cards and stuff too. I don't know. It's that question of like when it starts to detract from the gameplay experience, what other ways could you skin that? Scott asks, anything in the pipeline for Last Days? Channel content or campaign stuff would be cool. I mean, I would love to never be guilty about promoting my own games, but for the same reason that I haven't done a lot of Game of Wolves and Steel Rift stuff, is the reason I don't do Last Days stuff, is I put everybody else's games in front of mine, because that's what I do. I feel like if my games are good, then other people would play them and promote them. So I have a hard time emotionally doing that and not spending my time helping other people by promoting their stuff instead. Michael Forson says, oh, Lorcan Nicholas' demo team coming to play with me. I am the demo team. Oh, sorry. I assumed you were playing in the store with the demo team. That's fantastic. That's exciting. Mike Forson says, I love Tubi. There's a serious good on there. I mean, that's how I watched Bone Tomahawk a couple weeks ago. I was like, I can't find it anywhere else. Oh, it's on Tubi. Fantastic. Turbin says, just a quick side note. I love that you've got more close-ups of the miniatures in your new videos. Very appreciated. Yeah, that's, to me, that's the like, how am I shooting these differently thing? Like, if the miniatures matter, then they should matter, right? And if the gameplay matters, it should matter. Like, how do you find and strike a balance on that stuff? Paul Shurton says, I just watched From Beyond last summer with an old gang buddy, and we cried laughing. It's so good. The actors in that are so great. I mean, it's got so much Wei Yun from Deep Space Nine. Just the right amount of Wei Yun. Ewan says, I agree. The clearer shots of the armies are great. I do wish that Ash would point at Infinity Battletech miniatures when introducing them, though, so I can learn what the hell they are. I've started trying to do that, actually, identifying things. Atragon X says, Wasteland Warfare needs a second edition. I love the game, but man, oh man, it's overloaded with crap. Yeah, I think it's funny. I think that there's like I think we in this gaming industry have stopped expecting players to be able to do things for themselves as much. And I understand that that makes the on-ramp narrower for people to discover this hobby. But also I think that our like bandwidth for understanding and our capacity for doing things for ourselves is outstripped by what we've been given to do and understand sometimes, and we need to be given more to do. I think a big book of like writing out army lists should still be a thing we're capable of doing. Writing down character sheets, you know what I mean, and like warband rosters should be something we're still capable of doing. and weapon stats. Like, I love the little unit cards that come in the current, sorry, not saying new anymore because it's like 5 years old, but the current Necromunda. I love those little cards. I think they're great. That's all you need. You don't need a card for every gun in Necromunda. You just need that blank card that you can write everything into. Just make that. Give them homework. Give players homework. It doesn't need to be the old BattleTech mech record sheets where you're filling in a million circles, but you can give people a little bit of homework. And that, I think, generates that sense of ownership they have over the experience that is really valuable, I think, to creating like a long-term appreciation for what it is that you've made. We don't need as many accessories, I guess is what I'm saying. We can memorize some information, and there's a really fine balance between like reference material and getting in the way of people really enjoying what the experiences that they're doing. Turbin says, actually, thinking back on it, I think that Vanguard for Mantic would be peak token, although there were so many states to track. There was a lot of that one too, but I don't think it was more than Wasteland Warfare. All right, I'm going to go back to the mailbag, and then I'm going to, I think, take some more questions from the chat because we are 20 minutes from the end. Man, these go by fast because I never stop talking because I'm the only one here. All right, Matt Baer from Michigan says, any chance you might do a game of Inquisitor 54mm? So I saw this question, and this weekend while I was organizing stuff, so I keep leaning away from the mic, I did find this, which is my Skippy peanut butter jar full of Inquisitor miniatures because I was getting rid of a bunch of stuff and I was like, oh, I can't get rid of that. So I have all of this that I could easily put together and do like a demo of. I don't think it would be like a long-term campaign. I like that. So like with all of these like older games, you kind of have to manage your expectations because you're just going to try and like what I'm trying to do is create like an experience of it. Almost to the point of like, if someone wants to Google what was it like to play this game, they can see like 3 to 5 episodes of something that gives you the overview of what it was like. I'm not going to play anything forever, right? Because there's too much to do. There's too many games out there, and people keep writing new ones, so it's not ever going to stop. But that is one of the things I want to explore because I think as we start to like I think it's going to get a Grimdark Media episode is what's going to actually happen because I think it's so important in that landscape of that particular intellectual property. And then we'll play a game of it to like celebrate having gone through that. I think that's probably what's going to happen. You'll probably get a Grimdark Media on it. You'll get a GMG review of the rulebook talking about all of like this, referencing that stuff that was in the Grimdark Media. And then you'll see the gameplay. We'll do like a TBT let's play of it. Because I think that's probably the best venue for it. And I think that would be that would be the kind of the way that I'd want to convey that information where it's like, how is this useful reference going forward into the future? I want to make things that people look at 10 years from now and go like, oh, that's what that game was, you know? Jim Crimmins from New York says, are you still playing any army size war games? Or has the time desire to do so been pushed to mostly smaller and skirmish scale systems? Might you ever play some more Kill Team in the channel? Also, when we're going to see some new Steel Rift unit types and infantry on the channel. So I've kind of already answered all 3 of those questions. But to recap for Jim, because obviously I want him to hear the answer to this question. I have been doing what I can fit in these new locations and seeing what these locations that I've got for recording now are good for the last few months. I will continue to do so. As that soundstage gets finished, I'm excited to play bigger games again and play some mainstream games. I'm really excited to play some more Kill Team. I could play Kill Team now in here, and I have a bunch of ways of doing that. Weirdly, people aren't as excited to play a Kill Team right now locally to me as Warcry. And I'm kind of bummed about that. I'm hoping when the new Kill Team starts that comes out, I can get some people to play it with me because I love Kill Team. It is, I think, my favorite 40K game right now. And then the bigger scale games, when that soundstage is done, are going to just come flying right back in. And I'll probably in the beginning start recording them in mostly the old format just to like shake off the rust and like record in a way that I used to record basically. So we'll see how that goes. I'm not 100% sure about anything right now, but I do know that when I have a 6-foot gaming table again, that I can record on nicely and it's in a nice area and I've got nice ways of capturing audio in there that I'm going to keep working with to make the audio really good. We're going to have new stuff happen. That's bigger scale games again. So yeah, the answer is yes, and more yes. I have a whole bunch of like, obviously things I want to do. And all games are on the table, I guess is what I'm saying. There's never a time where I will stop doing anything, and I'll have 3 unique spaces to properly capture the different types of games, basically, no matter how big or small they are. Is the goal. That was always the goal of the renovation, right? Was to make it so that I could get all these things done. All right, last question from this. Jamie Whiteside from NI. No, that's not New England. NI. Netherlands? No, NI. I don't know what that stands for. Am I an idiot? Not Nebraska? No. I thought maybe they're putting in a state. No, NI. Not Nevada, not Nebraska. Nunavut? No. Not BNV? I don't know. Anyway, watching me short circuit there for a second, guys. Are there any games you tried to get into but just bounced off of? Yeah, absolutely. I think Legion was kind of an example of that. Where it just didn't click for me. We kind of bounced off of the original way of playing Last Argument of Kings. It just didn't like, I don't know, it didn't really provide anything that like intrigued us at the time. And it was all it was then was just the starter set. So I need to come back and give it another shake, especially the skirmish mode. But none of the factions, the 2 factions that were available back then, didn't grab me. Obviously Rune Wars bounced off us pretty hard, but it bounced off everybody pretty hard when we tried that one. It was a great example of too much cardboard. Okay, miniatures. Starset was actually great from like a model point of view, but man, it had a lot of cardboard and it just kind of bounced off us. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else. It probably, I can't remember whatever else bounced off because I've just immediately deleted it from my memory. Because usually if I lose track of a game, it's not because I didn't enjoy the game. It's because there's 15 other games that have like piled up over top of it, or 15 other projects that we've wanted to do that have piled up over top of it. So, but those ones in particular, I think, and they all kind of shared that same like accessories problem with me. Wasteland Warfare, I like fought my way through because I like the model so much and the property so much. I just switched to using the RPG system, and that didn't matter. And I replaced all the tokens with the resin bits that were representative of those tokens, right? So I didn't need like the search tokens anymore because I would just put like actual like lunch boxes down and stuff like that to flip through. So yeah, it was and I think I put the search tokens in a bag and then I just drew them. You know what I mean? If I needed to like search something, I would just draw a token out of a bag instead. So I kind of overcame that one just with like MacGyvering the system into being what I want it to be. Yeah, I think those are the big ones. They're pretty common though. All right, let's go back to the chat until we're done. We got 15 minutes left in the show. So let's Northern Ireland. Oh, Jamie, I'm so sorry. Northern Ireland. Everyone else was doing states. And so when I saw the abbreviation, I immediately went to like states in my head, not countries. I should have known that was Northern Ireland. Yeah, it's because I was like reading like Michigan, New York, whatever, and then it jumped into NI, and I was like, "What state is that? That's not a state, is it?" I completely short-circuited on that one. Ugh. All right, let's go back in the chat and see what else we got here. Ian Smith said using dice instead of tokens and bolt action is a great idea, as it has 6 tokens in one and they're easy to handle. Yeah, having it's funny. That always goes back to the universal green token dice that GW came up with, which was the one that was used in I think it was BFG originally, then Epic 40,000, and a couple other games used it, but it basically was the order dice. That the order dice, that's the first place I can remember it being is BFG. Actually, I don't think I can remember it being anywhere else, and it was a great system. Those order dice, and they got used a ton later on. Kudos Budo says, I'm finding Kill Team abundant rules feel like a barrier to enjoying the game. Now that I've tried it, even using Battlescribe adds so much time to gameplay, just scrolling to find rules. Oh, sorry, I just choked my own spit there. I find that the thing with Kill Team is you need to stay inside kind of your stable of what your guys do and only try and absorb what your opponent does when you're playing. It's mostly universal. That's like usually when you're playing against new faction, you really have to remember what their faction rule is. I'm so sorry. And then like maybe 1 or 2 individual unit rules of like what their stats are. So I try and memorize mine and generally know what the other opponent like does for their core stat line. Because the thing across kill team is most models in a kill team share the same stat line, unless they have something weird in it, like a hound, or like a lesser thing, like the little servo trucks and stuff, and the Imperial Breachers. Most of the stat lines are all exactly the same, give or take like a wound. And so you don't really have to worry about that stuff. It's just kind of what weapons they are armed with. And because the keywords are universal, it's not that it's kind of Infinity-y, where you can kind of parse what stuff does pretty quickly. So I just try and focus on what mine does. And that helped me, I think, a lot. But I find because when you're playing your friend, like unless you're planning to go to a kill team tournament, you can pretty much just learn what you and your friend play and then just play a campaign. Like I'm not trying to learn every rule in kill team. I'm just going to learn what my guys do and my opponent's guys do for the duration of that campaign. And when that's done, I still know what my guys do, and I can just forget what his guys do for the most part and move on. Torben says nameplates. Oh no, I don't know what that's about. Atragon X says I spent hours just making vampire characters in Warhammer Fantasy Battle 8th edition. That was a blast. Yeah, it's really funny how we used to do that too. We used to do the Arena of Death thing where we give ourselves like a rule, like what Warhammer Fantasy Battle Lord choice, if you spent 250 points, was the best. You know what I mean? So like a Chaos Lord would only get like 1 or 2 basic common magic items, whereas you could like load up like an electric count like to the gills with stuff and send them into battle and see how they do. I think the homework thing's fine. I honestly think that like we need to do a little bit more. Dan says, I see you like the sword, Ash like the sword, and I've seen you in a Red Fang shirt. Do you know Carp or Big Business? Just trying to push my friend's music. I have never heard of either of those bands. So I will look those bands up. Here, I'll screen cap this, Dan, and check them out. If they're Canadian, that's awesome. I haven't been to many shows in the last since I used to go to a lot more shows. Now I go to shows like 2 or 3 times a year. And yeah, and mostly just like I discover music algorithmically now, like all people do, and go and hit my record collection and my Apple Music. Although my Apple Music's algorithm is like schizophrenic because my kids use my Apple Music too because of our family account. So like for every metal band or hip hop artist or rap artist that I discover through like my like suggested for you or whatever, my kids have me listening to some like random YouTube cover of like a Minecraft thing where it's like it like reskins some pop song with like Minecraft lyrics or like Fortnite lyrics and stuff like that because they love that stuff. Paul says Ewan, yeah. Okay, I don't know what that's about. What else we got? Scott Random says Malifaux seems to lean super heavy on using their app for gameplay and crew building. The app's well done, but I don't enjoy playing a game with both players buried in their phones by design. Boo. Yeah, I will say that it's funny because it depends on how that's used. I think the problem with Malifaux compared to Infinity is Infinity has like a very like the common core stat line in Infinity doesn't include anything that's unique to any given model. So there's no like this model Infinity has a special rule that's only available to them. There's 1 or 2 rules in Infinity that only like a few models have, like Impersonation or Protheon, but still more than just one model in the game has that. So there's never a need for referencing your cards that much. If you just say the name of a skill, it's a skill that probably someone in your army has, you know what it does. So I find that like I don't reference my phone that much in Infinity unless I need to look up if I'm not confident about something, I might double check, but I don't need to read the word text for a skill because they're all common skills across the whole game and you just kind of know how they mix and match. And again, I sound like I'm just standing for Infinity, which I usually am. But I'm trying to like parse those 2 things. Why do you bury in your phone? Malifaux does have lots of universal rules, but also a lot of times you have unique rules to the card you're looking at, and you'll have to like cross-reference how those things work. So I can see how that would have you like in your phone a bit more. Ian says the Inquisitor rulebook is a wonderful artifact and my favorite window into 40k. However, I prefer simple rules. The Doom looks like it could be the ideal for playing Inquisitor. It's funny, I do feel like the Doom, not cribbed, but like has some of the Inquisitor DNA in it, with the activation dice, right? Like, I think the problem that Inquisitor had was it took the core Warhammer fantasy roleplay, like stat line, like that percentile stat line, bigified it to 40k, where you had all of a sudden these stats that went over 100 with like the space marines and stuff. where like the 100 stat was like the best a human being could possibly be, but then these like gene altered things became higher than that. And then basically tried to explain RPGs to wargamers, and then made the mistake of changing the scale. It's very funny how like it is such an artifact of its time because it's such a labor of love that you could see that the guys who wrote it and play tested it and worked in it totally got the intent behind and knew what they were making and put all this love into it. And it just landed flat, I think, with the audience because they made something for themselves, which is why I think it actually stands as such a testimony to what it was and has such longevity in like the discourse, but also didn't resonate with the customer base because they don't understand it. You had to like do two things. You had to sell them a game and also teach them what kind of game this was. And also the homework was you need to make an entirely new scale of stuff to play with us to come along on this journey. There was a bunch of gates to pass through, I think, on the journey into playing it. And it was more, I think, than at the time the majority of their customers were able to like follow along with. But it is a fantastic relic and has more to do with like, I think, with the success of 40K, like narratively going into the future and it being a little less goofy and derivative and more sort of codifying into its own thing. Lorcan Nichols says, you got both islands in the chat. We got North and South Island. Amazing. Chase says, I'd gladly play Kill Team with you as long as you're comfortable winning all the time. Then you're playing Kill Team with me. I have all of them. I will give you all the models that you need. So you can please come do that. And then Jordan asks, out of curiosity, and maybe a bit late to ask, what did you think of Gates of Antares? It never hit the channel, right? What's going on? No, we did play it, but I oh my gosh, woo. I couldn't get over the bolt actioniness of it. I thought I should just play Conflict 47 instead. And that would kind of let me hit the bolt action thing at the same time as the sort of sci-fi thing. And then, yeah, we just kind of never played it. It didn't catch on locally. There were some people that were excited to get the starter set, and then they didn't end up playing with me. And it was one of those things where, like, we all planned to do it. People started armies, and then nobody followed through. And I had 5 other projects that went in front of it. And then the hubbub kind of cooled off for it. And then there was, like, a next thing to move on to. So, yeah, it just didn't happen. It's weird. It kind of just fizzled. And then Darius says, any thoughts on the upcoming Legions Imperialis? Any upcoming games you're most excited about? So the first thing, you can wait until the weekend to hear my thoughts about. The second thing, any upcoming games I'm more excited about? I don't know. I'm just excited to play games. Like, I'm excited to like have this. My brain is completely in like project mode right now of like the renovation and seeing the potential of like being able to play games again out there. And so I don't actually have anything. I can't get past that right now. I can't think of like what I'm excited to play next. And then we got Ralph Sheeman saying, funnily, Rune Wars brought me into miniatures gaming for good, but I can see that it might be too much tokens for some people, but I love that game. I love the game around that. It seemed like a really good, competently written game. And it had a great miniature selection in that first box set too. Yeah, it's a shame it didn't catch on. And then we got Darius saying, oh no, it's just Dario and you and talking to each other now, which is funny. Kudoboda says, my issue with Heresy Epic is I already have tons of Battlefield, which you play Alpha Strike Combined Arms is basically the same thing. Sure. Yeah. I mean, if you played Epic, it's basically the same thing. I think games like that, where they bring back out well, I mean, it's funny. If you didn't watch Saturday's video about the cyclical nature of game design, doing Legions Imperialis is them returning to abandoned projects and giving them a fresh coat of paint and bringing them back. It's the definition of what we're talking about in a product cycle, right? And funnily enough, they're doing it in the same order they did before. People don't remember, but and you can watch my GMG review and also the Let's Play for it. But the first ever 2-player box set in Wargaming that wasn't made by the Boy Scouts, because that was the original one, is the Adeptus Titanicus box. It comes with 2 armies. It comes with styrofoam buildings. And the excuse for the 2 armies being the same miniatures is that it's a civil war. And so they create the Horus Heresy. And the original Horus Heresy box game is the Titanicus box from the 80s. They've remade that already. They're just following the same release schedule because Space Marine was the infantry expansion for Titanicus, but was also a standalone game. It further dove into the Horus Heresy. It codified the legions. In fact, the rulebook for Space Marine has the names of all of the characters from Dan Abnett's first three Horus Heresy books. Like Saul Tarvitz is in there, Nathaniel Garrow's in there, and they're just like little gray call out blocks of text. So this is a classic example of a product development thing where they're deconstructing one of their old products, bringing it back out with basically a fresh coat of paint, and making something they made before, basically, but modernizing it for today's audience. So I think that that's what you should look at it as. Is it's kind of like a reissue of something you liked with a new coat of paint. It's kind of like bringing back the original trilogy, Lucas remastering Star Wars. You know what I mean? Or somebody remastering a movie you really like. It's going to be a little bit different. There's things people like, things people don't like, and I think that's the point of going and buying it. Not that you don't already have a game like it. It's that you appreciate this thing for the story or the theme or the setting, and you want to like try it. You want to try whatever the updated version of it is. You know, it's the new Coke mentality of like, I love a cherry Coke. Let's go have a cherry Coke and see how we feel. So yeah, I mean, if I was, I can't identify with that idea of, well, I already have a 6 mil, combined arms war game. I have lots of 28 mil fantasy games. I got lots of 20 mil sci-fi games. Like I'm a polygamerist, and I'm never going to stop trying new games in the same theme and scale and whatever. Like I'll still play the new This Is Not a Test whenever Black Site publishes it for Joey, because I love that post-apocalyptic setting. I'm going to play it no matter what. I'm going to play it with probably my old This Is Not a Test miniatures, and it doesn't mean just played his original version of the game, I'm not going to play the new one. I think there's a lot of people like that, but there's a lot of people that are also looking for their favorite version of an experience. I think your side of that is just as valid, because it's like, no, I got a game that I like. It's in this scale. That's an universe I like, so I just don't need this. That's a really healthy way of looking at it. And then you're not going to expect it to be something else. You know what I mean? You know what you want and you've got it. So I think both sides are equally valid. I'm always chasing that original high of my first Scholastic book fair, discovering something new where I didn't know of it before. So I'm diving in and trying everything. I can't help it. I can't turn it off. It doesn't go away. All right, let's check the you just laughed at polygamerist. I've used the polygamerist joke so many times. I said polygamerist so many times when I was at HalCon that I should just put that on my name tag next time, maybe. Or maybe I'll just, is this a t-shirt we should make? Should we make a polygamerist t-shirt? Like using like a knockoff of the Tinder profile? Some graphic designer, come talk to me. We'll do it as a slogan. It'll be one of the GMG like t-shirts as polygamerist. I'm a filthy polygamerist. Dario says, yes, the chat's blowing up now saying, yes, absolutely, we need that t-shirt. It does feel like it's becoming slogany to GMG, that polygamerist man reads books. The polygamerist book reading zaddy. Oh man. Malev says, yo, YouTube doesn't remind you about streams if it's unlisted. That's mad annoying. Yeah, no, that's why I post on Patreon, dude. Is so that everybody gets, because I know Patreon, if you have your notifications on Patreon, the Patreon post will remind you that it's there, and we're doing it at noon. But yeah, no, if I do it unlisted for the original, because what I'll do is I'll have this be unlisted. I'll then go and edit a new copy of this that's got all the random horseshit at the beginning where I have to struggle with the audio edited, so I don't look like a complete moron. Only you guys get to see this side of me. And then that will go live as a premiere later on this afternoon for everybody else that's coming to hang out. So we'll do that then. Anyway, hey, my love, how's it going, man? Sorry you missed this one, but this was a lot better actually. We had 26 people in the chat this time, so I'm gonna keep doing it this way. We'll keep doing like in the morning when I get to the studio. I'll throw up the Patreon link so you guys can know when it's gonna start and what time, and like relative to your time zone too. So if you're in weird time zones, but it'll always be 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll be I think that's 9 a.m. Pacific and 5 p.m. UK. So those three seem like the big three that we can keep on. And then there will still be a description link for you guys when it's unlisted for the patrons. That's got all the Q&A stuff, so you guys can throw in questions. Just keep filling it up all week, and that way it'll be ready to go when we launch next week. And if you can't make this one, or if you're watching this and you're a patron later on, just go fire your question in now, and I'll just keep deleting them as I answer them. And yeah, just find either add cells to the table, or just grab any empty one and throw them in, and I'll keep answering them. Because that seemed to work well and made me feel like there was an actual like direction to this conversation, which was good too, because I would answer the questions in the inbox and then go to chat and we would talk about them and stuff like that. That felt like a good rhythm for this whole thing. So the rest of my day today is I got to get back to first I've got to run out to my back home because there's a bunch of Amazon packages just waiting for me that I got to make sure I don't get stolen, that have stuff I need to finish the soundstage, then do the soundstage, then come back here and edit the video to render. That's going to go live to the public later on this afternoon. This episode. So thanks for hanging out, guys. This was great. I'm really excited for you guys to see the first Grimdark Media breakdown. I'm not going to spoil what it's going to be. It's going to be video content though, and then book and game content. Literary and game content will come out later on this month, but the rest of this month's got 3 more episodes of Grimdark Media. I'm super excited about it. I hope you guys enjoy them. And then next month we will start the poll of I think you guys are going to get to vote on video, and then Jay and I will pick game and literary for December. And we're going to start that whole process where you guys get to pick one for us to break down, which is gonna be exciting. So anyway, big thanks for watching. And oh Jesus, the mouse is all the way over there. So you guys are gonna have to watch me struggle and go and turn this live stream off, because when I was screwing, I moved the mouse way across the room. Oh God. Someday this will go right. Anyway, yeah. So bye everybody. I'm gonna get up now and go turn the stream off across the room where the mouse is.